Good morning, everybody. How y'all doing? Hope you're doing well. I know I'm kind of just waking up here. And I'm like, I should probably do a video here just real quick. Let y'all know what happened with my Mayo appointment Tuesday. Well, it didn't happen. That's why I haven't done any updates. I had to reschedule again. Because of the car situation again. Yeah, I was working on getting my car payment ready. When was that? Monday morning. Oh, that's right. I ran out to, I had to take a couple days off. Let me back up a minute. That's right. Forgive me, I'm still waking up. I had to take a couple days off because of, I'm glad I didn't do that. Never mind. I just realized I didn't clean Possum's box yesterday, so I could get it out in the trash day today. And I'm like, oh shoot, I should probably do that real quick and get it out there before the garbage truck arrives. Well, never mind. He just came. TMI, I know, you don't have to say it. Anywho, yeah, I had to take a couple days off because of breathing troubles and so forth. So, and also low sugars. Man, that was Saturday. I was fighting low sugars all day. So, okay. So, anywho, Monday morning, I had to run out and get her some food and run a couple little errands anyway. Oh, that's right. I had to get my sensors for my my diabetes sensors. Anyway, I'm just waking up. Okay, guys. So, and I got home and email came in from Hertz. Action required. Big letters. And I'm like, oh, that's an email I have to actually pay attention to. So I opened it, and lo and behold, they were saying that my 6-month contract was up. And I'm like, what the hell? It's too early for this shit. I know it is. It wasn't due for another couple of weeks. And I'm like, and they were saying, oh, you have to have it in by the 3rd, basically yesterday, so on and so forth. And of course, my appointment is on the 2nd, and I'm like, fuck. That means I'm going to have to get together all that money within 2 days. And we were expecting a storm on Tuesday. And I'm like, there's no way I'm going to be able to go out, work Monday night. And I knew I was going to be doing 12-hour shifts, almost full 12-hour shifts. In order to get that money together, especially with the time of year it is and everything. And of course, we just had Thanksgiving, Black Friday, so on and so forth. So I'm like, yeah, there's just no way I'm going to be able to work 12 hours, get a few hours sleep, drive 2 hours down there, go to those appointments, and then drive 2 hours back, and then have to work 12 hours again. I'm like, I have to have a nap in there somewhere. And I'm like, this is just not going to happen. So I'm like, all right, call Mayo and reschedule the appointment again. The main one is the pulmonologist. So they did have appointments later on this week, but they were all morning appointments, like 8 o'clock in the morning. And I'm like, I'm really getting tired of this with these 8 o'clock appointments. And I'm still getting adjusted to driving in ice and snow and so forth. So I'm just like, hey, let's do afternoons. And I'm not much of a morning person as it is anyway. I'm a night owl. Even when I take nights off, I'm up half the night anyway. So, yeah, I've just always been that way. So I'm like, okay. Yeah, I rescheduled, and she did some research, and it's like, okay, so they got me scheduled for the pulmonologist afternoon appointment, but it's not until next week on the 12th at excuse me, 3 o'clock. So I don't know if I mentioned or not. Next Friday. I did mention it. Sorry. Next Friday, the 12th, 3 o'clock. So we'll do that. I'm really half asleep here. And then they were trying to, with it being kind of late in the day, with that appointment, unfortunately, the follow-up appointment with the primary won't happen until the following Tuesday, and that's at 3 o'clock as well. But that's a video appointment. We were able to do that as a video appointment. The consult with the pulmonologist has to be in person, but the other can be a video. So it's like, all right. The way I look at it is, too, I do have a little bit of a bill with Mayo. So they'll still give me a chance to get that money together, to get that paid before those appointments. And I also have to get my Lantus insulin. I'm almost out. I'll have to get that tomorrow. So, anywho, yeah, that's kind of where we're at with all of that. I apologize for my lapse in memory and so on and so forth. Anywho, another thing that has been happening quite a lot, that's this last new moon in Scorpio that happened just before Thanksgiving. That thing really packed a wallop. I gotta tell you, between that and everything else that was happening astrologically, and of course we were still in the midst of the Mercury and Saturn retrogrades, and those came out of retrograde last week. Mercury on Saturday and Saturn on Thursday. They basically they both went stationary on those days and just restart their direct motion. And when it happened initially, it was just like, wow, there was some backlash, most definitely. And part of it was, of course, the car situation, because what I go through last month, and it happened right there. Saturn was already retrograde, and I think either Mercury was either in retrograde or starting his retrograde, or was in the pre-shadow for the retrograde, one or the other. But either way, you start getting some backlash with that pre-shadow stuff. Anywho, I know I am really out of it. But anyway, yeah, got some backlash with the post-shadow from Mercury retrograde. And it's usually 3 weeks in, 3 weeks out, in case you're wondering. So, but at the same point, it's like they say in the astrological community, when it comes to Saturn with his retrogrades, when he is in retrograde, basically Saturn is the planet of karma. And also he's the teacher of the solar system. So, with that being said, it's if you are doing your work, your inner work during Saturn retrogrades, and you are basically learning your lessons, you are given a little gifty at the very end. And that happened to me. Definitely. Full on, full blown. And the little gifty that was given to me was a bunch of information having to do with long COVID, which we've been suspecting is what I have been dealing with. And it's nothing that came from my Mayo visits. No new information has come out from that. This is just info that started landing in my lap, basically, from various sources. Social media. I understand, but before anybody starts jumping the gun, saying, oh, well, you can't rely on social media or whatever. There is a group that I belong to up on Facebook called COVID Long Haulers. And there was somebody, she posted a comprehensive list of symptoms for those dealing with long COVID. Okay. That was the first thing that came out, but after that, it was things that were just crossing my path from like my Google News feed, things like that, and so forth. So, and one of the pieces of information that came through for me actually came from Mayo's website. And that, between those two pieces of info, that they were quite informative. Basically, the lists have been updated as to what as far as symptoms are concerned. So, and that was quite telling, especially with everything that I've been dealing with since last summer, since basically my symptoms have been getting worse. Based off of all that information and then the testing that has been done with Mayo, I am going to say that I am dealing with long COVID. I'm going to say that I had COVID, a second round of COVID, 3 years ago, this month actually. It was 3 years ago this month at this time that I came down sick. And unfortunately, I couldn't get out of the house. I was so sick. It was the Omicron variant that was going around at that time. And I was so sick at that time, I couldn't get out of the house even to go and even get like an at-home test or anything even. It was just horrible. So, I know that the Omicron variant and RSV were going around at that time. So, yeah. And I know exactly who I got it from and everything, but anywho, that's just more of a sidebar. I got a little silly girl here. She decided to come up here and lay next to her mommy and look out the window at the same time. So, anywho, with that list, it explained everything that I have been going through, the dizzy spells, those horrible, and I had another one here recently, and during that time also that I was just talking about with here recently with this past weekend and so forth, with the low blood sugars and everything. I've been symptomatic again with flare-ups. I got a huge amount of gray hair right here. It kind of bugs me sometimes. Anyway, so I know it just shines, and it's sticking out like this. It's like I see it shining, the light bouncing off of it, and it's just like, what is that? Oh, never mind, that's my gray hair. So there, that's better. Anyway, not that I care about gray hair, just it's like kind of catches my attention, and it's like, what is that? Oh, okay, never mind. That's all it is. If I cared about my gray hair, I'd be dyeing it. But I don't much give a damn. As far as I'm concerned, it's a badge of courage. So anyway, They're my chevrons. There we go. They're my chevrons for all my life ordeals. Yeah. You want to say hi? She's silly. So anyway, yeah, like I was saying, I've been being a bit symptomatic this past weekend. Low sugars, the stiffness again, had the dizzy spell, a few other things I can't remember. Shortness of breath without any storms. That's the thing. There were no storms, nothing was going on or anything. And I was just shortness of breath, tightness of chest. So, for whatever reason, I was being symptomatic this past weekend. So, with getting the dizzy spells, it really didn't surprise me when I had that happen again. So, it was like, okay. But there were some other things, some other information that came out from what I had seen also, especially from Mayo's website. I would recommend doing a Google search or, like Mayo long COVID article or something like that. I don't, I don't remember how it was, how you'd find it or anything. So, what you doing? You getting your mommy? She's biting her mom. She wants to play. Here she is. Ah! She's a silly girl. She got some sharp teeth, too. Yes, she does. She got herself some sharp toothers. Yes. That's a good thing. We like sharp teeth. That means our teeth are healthy. Yeah. She's silly. Anywho, there was quite a bit of info that came, and yeah, I looked at and definitely resonated with the posts from that Facebook group. But of course, I know that's one person, but and so there were some things that came out from that where I was just like, okay, check boxes. But really, the more comprehensive thing, and of course that I'm leaning more into is the Mayo article that I had found. I think I found it through, that's right, I did. I found it while doing a Google search to see if there's been any sort of updated info for treatments. And that's how I found that, that article, because I was trying to find out if there's any sort of relief that has been researched or that they have found or anything. So I recommend definitely looking at that article, especially if you're dealing with long COVID or everybody's trying to figure out, what the hell's going on with you, especially after having COVID. Pretty much the big consensus out there is you can be diagnosed of it. It's a symptomatic thing, and it's going to be different for everybody. Okay? Especially if you already had issues beforehand. So, and even the treatments is going to be, the treatments are going to be individualized. So, I would recommend starting with that article. The big consensus, though, is they won't diagnose you with long COVID until you hit a 3-month mark. You have to be symptomatic for 3 months. You don't necessarily have to have had a COVID test for it to be determined that you're dealing with long COVID. That's why they have the comprehensive list for long COVID. Primarily because there are people who are dealing with long COVID before there was testing. So that helped me feel a lot better also, that that's being recognized. Because I know it was 6 years ago, November 2019, I came down with something. And of course, that was before we had even heard of COVID. But there was something going around. It came in through Washington State. And it was kind of spreading down through the West Coast. And it was horrendous. And the thing that tells me that I had COVID at that time is afterwards, there was a couple of things. The big one was the rashes. I had developed these horrible red rashes on the insides of my elbows, basically. Both arms started off in my left, but it wound up in my right as well. Lasted several months with that. Excuse me. And I couldn't get rid of them. They itched constantly. It was like prickly heat rash or something. And I couldn't get rid of them. And I tried everything. I was doing all kinds of research trying to find ways to get rid of them. Calamine lotion, tea bags, ice cubes, ice packs. And of course, it got even worse when the heat of summer came around. And of course, I was living out in the desert. I was in Vegas at the time. So yeah, it was horrible. I could not stop itching for anything, and I was doing everything I possibly could to not scratch. So eventually they did subside, just poof, went away. But another issue that I was dealing with was heat sensitivity, and I dealt with that for a couple of years until I finally had read about those symptoms and about the fact that, okay, there's, in myself, at that point, I had been living in the desert for about 15 years, something like that. Yeah, 15 years. So I was used to the heat. And I was one who always drove around without the air conditioning going in my car and so forth. I felt a lot better. I really don't care for air conditioning in the car. And but unfortunately, I was having such a sensitivity to it. I had to turn the AC on in my car, and I was also having difficulties breathing at that time also. But what I did was I was just like, oh, heat sensitivity, all right, COVID, I'm gonna knock you right out. So I think it was my second summer when I found out, what was going on or whatever. I hit the streets. I went out walking as much as I possibly could. Started driving without the air conditioning going again, and so on and so forth, until I couldn't handle it, basically. But yeah, mostly hitting the streets, getting out in the sun, walking every single day. And that helped knock it out. But unfortunately, it hasn't been helping with this round. So, the point that I'm trying to make is, getting back to that testing, and especially those symptoms. It doesn't matter if if you tested positive or not, because there's those who had COVID, but unfortunately there wasn't testing available at that time. So I know I kind of digressed there a minute. But I was just trying to, demonstrate that, hey, you could have been symptomatic during those times, and then, yeah. But I know full well that I had it at that time. That was November 2019, and then December 2022, I had it again. Only this time it really took me down, tore me up. So, as far as treatments are concerned, still, it's not a whole lot available, but they have found, if you're somebody who has wound up losing your taste buds and your sense of smell, there is retraining for that. So that is promising. So if you're dealing with that, it's more psychological training. It's done psychological, okay, to get the body to reinitiate those senses again. And then for those of us who are on the opposite end of the spectrum, where basically everything is in hyperactive mode, there is a treatment, and I'm not entirely too sure if I might be on board with it or not, because it would have to be basically treatments done for the rest of my life. And I don't know how often they would have to do them. If it's like once a month or whatever. And the treatment basically is taking long needles and sticking them into the neck on both sides of the larynx. And injecting medication, which of course you're going to have to be put out for that probably, or they do it local. I'm not entirely too sure which. So that's something that I'm going to have to really think about if that winds up being discussed as a treatment option. Physical therapy, breathing treatment, or not breathing treatments, but breathing therapy. What I basically was going to be starting, but we decided to hold off. I discussed that in one of the other videos. That actually is an option, but we would probably have to work with the pulmonologist if it winds up being something that they discuss. They would have to probably coordinate with the therapist on what sort of treatments, what sort of exercises, and so forth. When I read physical therapy, I'm like, what have I been saying for the last 2 years? So yeah, we'll have to find options, and I have been on board with that right from the get-go. I have been wanting to, even here lately, I've been wanting to get back to doing my yoga, but I feel like I'm hurting myself. So, and I need to find out what sort of stretches that I should be doing for all of that. I know I really would love to get back to doing my yoga, but I want to hold off for right now until. But the other thing too that came up with the symptoms, which had a big concern for me, is heart issues because of the strain that all the other symptoms are putting on the heart. Cardiac issues, including stroke. And the reason why I bring that up is issues that I've been having for the last several months. Basically, I think the first time I had it happen was back in August, maybe September. I'm not entirely too sure. I woke up one morning and I just kept feeling like I had something in my eye. And I kept rubbing my eye, trying to get it out, and I kept thinking, well, maybe it's an eyelash, this or that. Finally, I looked in the mirror, and come to find out, this eye here in the corner of my eye, was drooping into my eyeball. So yeah, I had something in my eye. It was my own eyelid. I mean, it was just drooping. And I'm like, what the heck? And I even asked my friend Angie if she had seen that before, and she was just like, no, I don't know. And so, she's a nurse. So I'm just like, okay. Immediately I thought of course, a mini stroke. Because I know that happens with people, with some people anyway, when they are having a stroke. And I'm just like, okay. Well, it keeps happening over and over. And at one point, see here, my eye was swollen and drooping. Another time, it was swollen and drooping. And then I had like a little bubble forming up underneath here, like right here. But then Thanksgiving morning last week, at one point, I didn't wake up with it, but at one point during the morning, I had to run down to the store, pick up a couple things, because I wasn't able to do what I was in hopes I could do. I was just real tired from working the night before, and I was in no mood to be trying to do bread and so forth. I was just like, forget it. So I just ran up the road and got some dinner rolls, basically, and some sort of dessert. And anyway, I got back home, and that's when I noticed that for some reason, my bottom lip from here all the way over was completely swollen. And I'm just like, what in the world? And I'm like, okay. So I did get pictures so I could show the doctors. That really, and it would stay like that for a few hours, several hours. And I'm like, yeah, this is not a good situation. I didn't, and after reading about the symptoms and about the stroke, I was just like, for me, it kind of, it confirmed for me that what is happening, basically having many strokes. And the reason why COVID long haulers are susceptible to strokes is because what happens, and the reason why we also have issues with our with dizziness, those horrible dizzy spells, is for some reason the blood keeps pooling in the lower parts of the body, depleting the brain of oxygen. Blood, depleting the brain of blood, and then of course of oxygen. So, yeah, that was, that hit me hard. Because it makes me wonder, okay, when I, and of course with the timing, if it's right in with being symptomatic here recently. But yeah, it hit me a little hard because I'm just like, all right, when's the big one going to happen? So, and of course I'm wondering if it's a good idea for me to go back to Vegas and live on my own again. But then again, I can't allow something like that to stop me, that sort of fear to stop me, because anything can happen at any time too. So, I mean, I'm at the age, diabetic, so on and so forth, I could be out on the road, something can happen right here. But my main thing is my little baby. She's the number one most important thing in my life. And I want to make sure she's taken care of. And if I'm out there, who can take care of her? There's basically nobody left out there for me. So, I don't know. But I don't allow things to stop me. So, I'm still dead set on being able to go back. So, anywho, and hopefully maybe with getting some physical therapy, going and so on and so forth, help keep the pooling of the blood at bay, and so on and so forth. So, that was, yeah, that was very telling also. The other thing, too, that came up, which really shocked me in a way, is one of the symptoms that they actually have listed on there now is diabetes. And I've been saying for all along, I'm like, there's just no way. It had to be because of COVID, with it coming out in me. Yes, I have genetic predisposition for it, but I wasn't having any symptoms or anything beforehand. And then all of a sudden, poof, that gene got switched on. I'm like, this is just not making sense to me. And it's stuck in my head the whole time with what my first endocrinologist had said, that usually with type 1s that happen late in life, like with me, there's usually something that triggers it. And that has stuck with me. And even the primary that I saw in Mayo had kind of said the same thing. He found it. And I've had that all along, where it's like you're type 1, you're a little bit late in life for it. It happens, but it's just a bit unusual. And I've had that said to me several times. And so I'm just kind of like, all right. So anywho, with reading that, I was just like, okay. But that also got me to thinking about the testing that was done. And, because Mayo had sent out for the test to verify that I am a type 1. And, of course, I was upset by that. I'm like, why are we going down this road again? Blah, blah, blah. But the thing that kept sticking out with me was who ordered the test. It wasn't the primary physician that ordered the test. It was the pulmonology at the department. Why would a pulmonologist be sending out for a diabetes test? By rights, that should have been the primary, or the primary asking an endocrinologist to send it out. One or the two should have been the one to send it out. But no, it was the pulmonologist. And so that has been sticking with me. And I'm like, why in the world would they be doing it? Now I understand why, because it was actually on their article. It was right in their article that I had read. So I'm like, okay. And you don't necessarily have to, that was something else that I had read. You don't necessarily had to have had a genetic predisposition for type 1 or for diabetes for it to all of a sudden materialize with the rest of your long COVID symptoms. So that was huge. With reading that. So yeah. A lot has come out. It all hit me really hard. On the one hand, it was like, oh, finally relief. I'm getting confirmation for everything that I've been saying the whole time, and all these people are telling me, you don't know what you're talking about. You're not a doctor, this or that or whatever. Well, guess what? Listen to me. I know what the fuck I'm talking about. Also, it hit me hard too, psychologically, because of all the crap that I have been given over the last couple of years, especially when it comes to finances. oh, you still have to pay your bills. And so, yeah, I get all that. But it's kind of difficult to do if half the time you can't breathe. Literally cannot breathe. There are times when when my chest is cramping up so horribly bad, not just the muscles, but also the airways, that I literally have to hold my breath and hope for the best, that it will release in enough time so I can at least take some short breaths to get some air back going in my body. That's how bad it is. And people just, or people just, you try and explain that to people. Oh, just go to the doctor. They'll give you something, and you get on inhalers. This or that. Well, yeah. Gee, why didn't I think of that? Give me a break. And unfortunately, people don't understand. It's a little bit more than that. And inhalers don't help. If anything, they make me worse. So what do? So, yeah, that's kind of where I'm at, and and unfortunately, it's like they had said in that article, that Mayo article, it was pretty comprehensive, and they talked about the psychological aspects of it as well, talking about, psychological therapy, too, because unfortunately, there's a lot of stigma associated with it. People are not understanding, not just the general public, but also within the medical field. It's not widely accepted even within the medical field. So, you run into a lot of those issues as well. There are clinics, long COVID clinics, that have popped up all over the place. But unfortunately, one of the big issues that you run into with them is that insurance companies don't recognize them. They don't take insurance. They basically, or they haven't been able to get through the approval processes with insurance companies. I think a lot of it has to do with the Affordable Care Act and the stipulations that are required for that. I think that's probably the biggest obstacle that they're running into, is to being able to be approved, to be able to have insurance accepted at their facilities. I don't know. I'm just guessing here. But I wouldn't be surprised if there was something to do with that. But let's face it, the Affordable Care Act was long before COVID, so updates would have to be done with the regulations if that's the case. They may be being worked on, maybe not. I don't know. But in order to go to those places, you either have to pay cash and then go back to your insurance company and try and get reimbursed, or they do accept what is that called? Basically, I can't even think of the letters. Basically, when you have a certain amount of money taken out of your paycheck and put into a medical relief fund or whatever, and then you're given like a credit card, with Visa or MasterCard logo on it, okay? It's basically like a medical deposit, for when things come up, and you can use it for huge co-pays that you have to pay or whatever, or deductibles. That's the word I'm trying to think of. Not co-pays, but deductibles. So, yeah, that's what I'm talking about. With one of those, they do accept those, but for the most part, it basically all has to be cash in advance. So, and of course, it's not going to be cheap. So, but with that being said, and with those sorts of facilities, it's more of a well-rounded, systemic treatment process instead of just, oh, okay, you're having breathing difficulties here, have an inhaler sort of situation. They're doing a systematic approach because you have to with this, because it isn't just one thing, it's the whole body that's being affected all the way into the cells being destroyed. And that was the other thing too that came up, that COVID, even long COVID, is one of the things that we're fighting are viruses that are laying dormant within our bodies that haven't ever really been annihilated. And because of everything that the body is fighting, it's given the viruses a chance to be able to come out and play, basically. You know, ones that have been living in the gut for a long period of time or whatever, and that's another thing that came out also are the gut issues. Probiotics, basically, is your best bet. And if you haven't seen any of my previous videos with it, basically, I've been dealing with gut issues since 2013. So I'm pretty much an expert when it comes to probiotics and how to deal with those. But if basically, I have found that the probiotics that you find in Chobani Greek yogurt, Whole Foods, they're organic, and their organic yogurt, and also the what is that called, Stonyfield or something like that. It's a Blue Label. I know that it has a cute little farm setting on it, so on and so forth. The probiotics in each of those are your best ones, okay, according to the research that I have done. So, oh yeah, that was another thing that came out too, the brain fog. I know I deal with that a lot, unfortunately. So, but yeah, COVID, or long COVID also activates those, or allows all those viruses to come out and play as well. So yeah, that's what I mean. It isn't just one thing, and those clinics can be good, but the best bet is, since how I don't have the money for those clinics and so forth, my best bet is someplace like Mayo, where they know how to play the system, basically, to get insurance to pay, you know, for at least the majority of everything. So, and they do take a whole system approach, and that was proven to me with that article. So I don't know how much longer I'm going to be at Mayo. I know this has been a very long video, and I apologize. But there's a lot that's come out here recently. Yeah, like I was saying, I'm not too sure how long I may be at Mayo. I'm not too sure, you know, how much longer I'm going to be here. But it is what it is. I might wind up having to do a situation where, okay, if I get all the money together, be able to buy my own car and be able to move back, maybe I just transfer everything over to the Mayo in Phoenix. So, which would be fine. The other thing, as far as finances are concerned and being able to move back and all that sort of stuff, Angie has offered to let me use her old car so I can get rid of this car payment. You know, because this car payment is killing me. I mean, I'm paying $342 a week for this car payment, renting through Hertz, so just so I can do my Uber Eats. And it's become a bit of a headache with, oh, action required, and you have 2 days to take care of it. Sort of bullshit. I'm really getting fed up with that shit. And so are they too. And there's been the concerns also with the weather, And I went through it the other night, Tuesday night, just trying my damnedest to get the last of that money together for the car payment and also gas money. I came up $2 short for the car payment. Yeah, ridiculous. So, and I wound up having to borrow a little bit of money, but that's okay. But anyway, at least everything was taken care of. It's like, well, why didn't you just go out and, well, I only had 55 minutes left to get, you're only allowed a certain amount of time out there on the app for working. I only had 55 minutes left after dropping off my last order, and I was out in the middle of nowhere. And I tried going offline and then going back online when I got a little bit closer to civilization, but it was quiet. So, and I was tired. I had been fighting a snowstorm all night. Half time I couldn't see the roads, let alone trying to see where the lanes are on the roads. Yeah, but they've had their concerns. My friends have had their concerns about me being in this low car. So Angie's just like, check with Uber, find out what it is that you need to do to get that car approved, just to do the deliveries. And I found out that information yesterday. It's pretty simple, and that will help me save a ton of money every month, and I could take that money and start putting it away to be able to get my own vehicle and to be able to go back home. So, and also be safe out on the roads, because I gotta tell you, there were times, even without their, because, the plows weren't keeping up with the storm, and there were times when, yeah, I was hearing grinding up underneath the undercarriage. So, not just with the tires or in the wheel wells. And I had to run over some ice chunks. How it falls off of the cars and everything. And it was just like, not much choice. Best thing to do, run it over and hope for the best. So at least I'd be able to, be safer and get rid of that car payment. So that's what I'm going to be working on. I know that when she had the car in the shop, it's got a check engine light, needs a catalytic converter, they said. But then again, knowing mechanic shops, that they might just be targeting the most expensive thing. It may not be anything more than an O2 sensor. So we'll see. I did talk to her about paying for, and I'd be willing to do it, paying for the extended warranty insurance. So even if it has to be in her name and I just pay her every month, and of course they're throwing some discounts right now too. So if I can get all that money together here and within, the next couple of weeks, then yeah, with what I need for, to be able to drive it instead of the other car, then that would be a big saver. So, anywho, that's kind of where we're at right now with everything. So I probably won't be doing another video here for a while until find out, what everything that's going on with Mayo. I'm determined to get to that appointment next time. I even told them that when I was at Hertz yesterday. I'm like, we've got to stop this. This is twice now I've had to cancel these appointments, and I need to be at this appointment. She's like, if need be, don't worry about it, And I'm like, okay. So, yeah. All right, guys. I might try and post a picture. It is beautiful out. Sun is shining, and with all the snow on the ground and so forth, that is making a very beautiful, picturesque setting. So I'll try and get a picture and post it over there on the blog. So it is Really, really pretty. And they've started setting up the Christmas tree downstairs there. So, yeah. She says. I love her so much. I know. And she knows that her mommy loves her so much. Yes. Alright, I need to get going so I can get back to work. Got caught up on some sleep. I didn't get home yesterday morning until about 5:30ish, so yeah. I only had about a couple hours sleep before I had to run out there to Hertz, which is 30 minutes away. Joy. Alright, love you guys. Talk to y'all soon.